Welcome to today's video entitled How to Get Unstuck. In essence, how do we move out of our comfort zones? As a recap, in the first video, we talked about how we're all feeling during this COVID crisis and how it was important to check ourselves against the 6 human needs that we all have in order to feel confident and congruent and happy in our lives. We talked about how we're feeling can actually lead to some of us getting stuck. In essence, it can lead us to either making the wrong decisions or for most of us simply making no decisions whatsoever and just maintaining the status quo because it's the easiest thing to do. And we talked about how understanding cognitive biases can actually help us to both meet those needs and to get unstuck and to move forwards. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. At Equilibrium, one of our values is simplicity, and this is something that I came across many years ago now, and it really is very simple. It's an ultimate success formula that says that we need to see things as they are, not better or worse than they are. We then need to see them as we want them to be, and then we need to make a plan to get there, and effectively eat, sleep, and repeat. When it comes to COVID, and seeing it as it is, not better or worse than it is, then this is where I feel that we are at the moment. Unfortunately, we could be in this exact same position a year from now. Boris recently explained that the new measures will be in place until spring of next year. And it could even be that we're in the same position 2 years from now. We simply don't know. And so the idea of getting stuck and doing nothing and making no changes when we're going to be in this for the long haul simply doesn't make any sense at all to me. My other conclusion is that the data is currently almost impossible to analyse, and believe me that I've tried really hard. Partially because we're comparing apples and oranges to the early data set that we got of who was being tested to the data set that we're now getting of who's being tested. And then understanding the international COVID strategy is very hard to understand as well. The initial strategy of building capacity for the NHS, making ventilators and so on, and saving the NHS was easy to understand. The current strategy, much more difficult. And obviously throughout all of this then, it leads us all to feel somewhat confused and somewhat uncertain as to what the future holds. But rather than getting stuck, rather than worrying about the things that we can't control, one of the things that I think we should be doing is to look at the things that we can control. Look at the things that really matter. Focus on those. In essence, we want to be controlling the things that we can control. Control the controllables, as we call it. And there are always things that we can do. We've always got time and we've always got choices. And throughout COVID, many people have got more time. They're not going on as many holidays. They're not doing as many hobbies or spending as much time with friends. So we have got time to focus on the things that matter. And as the phrase goes, all we've got is time and choices. And it's really important that we're wise with both of them. And when we think of comfort zones, when we think of how they feel, by their very nature, they feel comfortable. We're happy there. We don't feel threatened there. And yet, whether you're progressing in your job, whether you're learning a new hobby, whether you're learning a new skill, or whether you're trying to develop and move forward with your portfolios, then comfort zones are rarely where improvement takes place. It's when we step out of those comfort zones that we make the maximum progress in the shortest possible space of time. And when we think about that, the discomfort that we feel by stepping out of our comfort zone is always only temporary. It doesn't last for very long. I remember when I first started doing presentations and recording videos, my discomfort would start maybe a week beforehand. Nowadays, it starts much closer to the event, and once you start, it instantly dissipates. I was talking to a colleague of mine, Lucy, recently, who about a year ago was petrified of presentations, and is now really good. And I was talking to Lucy about how she's made those step forwards and those improvements. And she explained that by thinking about how she felt after a presentation, and by thinking about the feedback, the positive feedback that she's had about those presentations, have allowed her to focus on the future that's actually then massively reduced the discomfort in the now. So looking into the future, looking at the outcome that we want, can help us quickly reduce that discomfort and move through it. And also, hopefully, by moving out of our comfort zones, rather than getting stuck in not having those needs met, hopefully by moving out of those comfort zones, we get more of those needs met and we get them met quicker. And I believe very much that all problems exist in the absence of a great conversation. And great conversations often start with great questions. This is one from Dan Sullivan, who runs Strategic Coach, a Canadian-based multi-million turnover coaching business. And that business has been built on the back of this one key question. And it says, if we're meeting here 3 years from today, what would have to have happened for you to be happy with your progress, both personally and professionally? And we can adapt that question to our finances. What would have had to have happened for you to be happy with the progress of your portfolio? What would have had to have happened for you to be happy with the progress in how you support your family, in your intergenerational planning? We can turn it around to any aspect of the portfolio that we want to focus on. We can then move on to say, well, okay, once we know that, once we know where we want to be 3 years from now, then what decisions could we make today to help us get there? What's that first action, that first small step forward that we can make? We can also then think about the question, if you feel like you were making the right choice, what would it be? We usually know what the right choice is instinctively. We often just put off making it. A great one here that I love to use with the kids. Often you ask somebody a question, they say, I don't know. You say, okay, if you did know, what would the answer be? And by asking the question in that format, it unlocks a different part of our brain and helps us to search through what those answers are. Because often, even though we say we don't know, we really do know. We can then start to look at some more specific questions. So what aspects of your finances are you unhappy with? That's a great question, whether you're an equilibrium client, whether you're a prospect, just simply looking at where you are today and saying, okay, which bits am I unhappy with? Same question in relation to your relationship with your advisor. What elements are you currently unhappy with? Once we know those, we can start to address them and move forwards. And then we can think of it a different way. What is the potential impact of doing nothing? What's the impact of delaying the decision for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, or maybe even longer? What detriment does that do if we don't move forward, if we don't act today? And whether you're engaging with Equilibrium on a deeper level as an existing client or engaging with us for the first time as a new client, then it might increase those initial levels of discomfort and uncertainty. But if we know that, that's okay. If we know why we're doing it, if we're looking to the future, then it helps us to cope with that. And some reasons why that uncertainty might be increased is that naturally you might become slightly more confused in the early stages of those discussions. It might be that we're highlighting flaws in the current strategy or the current portfolio. And whether that's being managed by another advisor or whether that's being managed by yourself, then that can impact on your levels of significance. It might feel as though you haven't been doing things right. But if we're aware of that again, we can help move past it. And then you have natural ones where you just don't know us or you don't know what to expect. There's lots of things on our videos and our websites that can help move past that one as well. And then finally, it might be that you're actually asked to make a decision. And when our levels of uncertainty are hitting those hitting the limits, then sometimes that can be hard. Again, if we know it in advance, it can help us move forward. Because you know what? It's okay to be confused. It's when we're confused that it leads to having those great conversations, to asking those great questions, and hopefully out of that comes the clarity of what we need to do, and hopefully out of that comes certainty moving forwards. So we want, by engaging with us, to increase people's feelings of confidence and clarity, to increase those certainty levels. Because surely by undertaking a review, by undertaking a health check, if you like, then you'll find out that either you're in the right place. If you're an existing client, you're in the right risk profile, your strategy of withdrawals and intergenerational planning is correct, and nothing needs to change. You leave with confidence and certainty. Or we move to the right place so that you have confidence and certainty that where you're going is now correct, that we have adapted it for the circumstances that we find ourselves in today. And when we're going through that process, we're going to be providing some concrete evidence in a simple way to aid you to have the confidence to make those decisions. But also, if you're a new client, then we're going to give you the opportunity of talking to existing clients first. If the concrete evidence is the head of the decision-making process, then maybe talking to existing clients can help with the heart. Find out how we've looked after them, find out what service they've enjoyed, find out how happy they've been with the results, and whether they feel as though we've kept all of our promises that we've made over the years. And the other one is to think about the fact that you're just looking. You're not committing to make a change at this point in time. You're just doing an investigative process. And if at the end of it you decide that your current strategy is right, your current advisor is right, then that's perfect. That's great. You know where you're at and you've reached the right outcome. And we will invest as much time as is necessary to help get to that stage. We are incredibly patient with our existing clients. We're patient with new clients as well, to give them the time, the resources, and knowledge that you need to be able to make that decision confidently. So I hope today's video's helped. As we move into the next instalment, we're going to be talking about how engaging with us can create more certainty in the uncertain world that we find ourselves in. And as we move into the final video, we're then going to be talking about reasons to be proactive and looking at specific actions that you can take both within your portfolio and within your overall financial planning to help you move forward and get the right outcomes that you all need. As always, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Be delighted to take your questions. Either email them to us, go old school and give us a call, or if you're a client, you can go via the live chat via our portal. Thank you for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next instalment.